Hi there. My name's Dan Howell. I'm a producer in Volga, South Dakota, near Brookings. And George Waldner is here with me, and we're kind of doing a interview and a little bit of an educational video on how to get a little bit more up to speed and knowledgeable on ProSort. So, thanks for having me today, George, and glad to have a few minutes to talk a little bit more about ProSorting. Um, yeah, as I mentioned, I've been a hog producer for about 10 years. And in the fall of 23, I constructed a new 2,400 head cross vent barn just south of Volga. We had a nice open house towards the end of November of 23 and had almost 400 people here. And George was in attendance and did a nice demonstration and kind of showed people a little bit more on the scales. So I'm about a year in having ProSort scales, and really excited about the strong product that they are and teaching people about why they should use sorter scales and kind of getting people up to speed. So, yeah, happy to be here and have a few little bit of an interview with you and kind of go from there.
Thank you much, Dane, for doing that. George with ProSort. Uh, so, what has been your overall experience with ProSort sorters in your new facility?
Yeah, overall, it's been a very positive experience. Just like anything that you have new, there's always a little bit of a learning curve. But, you know, it's very user friendly. And once you get the first group down, you get very familiar with things very quick. So, probably the number one thing I like about ProSort is the labor aspect of things. On our farm, I farm with my dad and my uncle and I, and when we would sort a load to go to market, we would usually take at least two, if not three of us to go and sort and load a semi hogs. Um, this year in 24, we did a group in April and a group in September. And with planting and soybean harvest during those two times, with the sorter scales, I pretty much load most of the semis by myself. The pigs are in the heavy pen and they're all sorted. And so my dad, Kent's able to keep planting or keep combining soybeans. And I excuse myself for the duration to go load hogs. But as people know, one of the less enjoyable things in raising hogs is sorting, especially like the first cut or two when the pens are full. So um, with the ProSort, you set your parameters on your minimum weight, 285, 280, 290, whatever you're kind of targeting. And then it captures any pigs above that you want. And if you're putting 175 on a load, you can have all four of them kind of work so that you maybe catch a few extra just to be safe, but you kind of hit your targets that you want to go in the heavy pen, and then after that they'll go into the medium and the light pen, and so you can catch a load fairly quick and efficient, and you almost can know what the weight of the truck is before they even leave the farmyard. So labor is probably the number one beneficial aspect, in my opinion. My dad and my uncle are close to 70, and they've done this for many, many years, and age catches up with the person a little bit, and this is a way of working through that and being also more efficient too with sorting hogs. And you have a machine that's getting it versus maybe weighing a couple before you start, kind of get an eyeball test, and then kind of keep going and stuff. But I used to market about 5,500 pigs for 9+ years, and I a little biased, but I think I had a pretty good eye for what a 285-pound hog looks like and stuff, and but with the ProSort scales, it's a machine, and they're going to get things perfect. And if you set your minimum that you want on the first truck to be 285, you're going to hit that, and then you might hit anything that's above that. But you can play with your mediums and your minimum weights that you want and hit your targets.
So, Dane, in the ones that you did sort and load on your own, did you notice a difference in chasing those hogs onto the truck versus pen barns?
Yeah, good question. I think no doubt they load easier in a sort barn versus a pen barn. Um, One of your co-workers, Dennis, had kind of mentioned that to me before we built the barn, that they load a lot easier, and they do. When you go through the sorter um, system, you do a training mode for 3 to 4 weeks, and then you start kind of going through auto sort, where they go through a light, some mediums, or a heavy food court based on their weights. And they get to be a very well trained hog by the time they go to market, and they know what to do, and um, they're a lot more tame, and they load easy. And I definitely think there's an advantage of loading out of a scale barn, excuse me, than a pen barn, because they load a lot easier.
So, Dane, you mentioned consistent hogs coming off at a sorter barn. Uh, what does that relate to at the packing plant?
Well, I think once you get your first load out, um, you know, any barn, your first load, you're going to have a few that are going to be a little bit bigger. But once you get into the thick of things and you're taking pigs out, you can get a very tight window for, you know, variancy in what the hogs weigh. So um, you can get 5 to 7, maybe 8 pounds at the most of a whole semi with 175 pigs um, that are all within that range in the whole semi. So if some plants offer a premium for being in a certain weight range, that's another big advantage of a scale, is that you're going to be able to have a higher percentage of pigs that are in that category for hitting your target market.
So, Dane, do you see any performance improvements, sorter barns versus pen barns?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest advantages of a scale barn is you're going to be able to hit the top pigs out of the barn at a quicker calendar days than you will on a pen day. So, for example, we're shooting around 120 days to take the first load out. We've even been a couple of days before that. Sometimes it just depends on if that falls on a weekend or whatnot, but um, you're able to use technology within the software of the sorter barn of putting in an average rate of gain and shooting how many calendar days you are out to kind of do a market forecast. And that allows you to kind of set up your first load based on when you'll have enough pigs to fill a semi. So I think that's a very valuable tool for marketing your hogs, and being able to have that tool in your toolbox for marketing hogs. And ideally, that if your pigs are going out when they're supposed to, you're saving on feed efficiency, and you're getting your premiums at, whether it's Smithfield or any other plants that you might be marketing your hogs to and stuff. But going to market when they should, capturing premiums, and saving on feed consumption are probably a couple of big things, along with labor, as I mentioned earlier, that are big advantages of using a scale barn.
So you mentioned saving of feed. So what does that relate to in average daily gain? And you also mentioned 120 days to market. So what did you normally do with pen barns when you had them?
Yeah, I think the average rate of gain is over 2 pounds a day. Definitely on the first, 1, 2, or 3 loads, you might even be a couple tenths better than that. And then as you kind of get into things, you might be more around like 2 pounds a day. 120 days would be post leaving a sow farm. My hogs in this barn uh, are about a 16-pound isowean. So that's maybe a couple pounds more than some isoweans coming from sow barns. But we're 120 days post sow farm, kind of going to market. In the last barns I had, they were 30-year-old barns, but we were somewhere in the high 130s, 135 to 140 that we were taking the first load out. So definitely an advantage of if you have 225 pigs ready, you're able to capture 175 pigs to go to market. And how you do that is every pig has to get food and water that's in what we call the food court in the scale area. So in the general big pen in a scale barn, there's no feed, and based on people's setups, they might be a little bit different. My barn does not have any waters in there, so you see every pig averages, you know, I would say around 4 times a day, sometimes 5, that they might go through a sorter scale and get feed and water. But the training aspect is really important to, teach them where the feed and the water are. And you see a higher usage in the summertime getting water and whatnot, but a little bit less in the kind of the cooler months. But yeah, there'll be a few things to kind of share.
So earlier you mentioned newer technology with the sorters. So I have to say ProSort systems has come a long way the last 20, 25 years. And you're on our latest technology. So what do you think of the user interface on ease of use and remembering on how the control works and overall ease of use?
Yeah. Yeah, great question. I think in today's society, almost everybody has a smartphone, and I would kind of relate it to a smartphone that it's easy to navigate, and you have kind of your basic features that stand out. And then as you get to know the product more, you can kind of dive into a little bit more specifics like your marketing forecasts and playing with some of the settings and stuff with that. But um, the there's 4 sorter scales in my barn of the 2400, and each one has a group of 600. And I can go into each one in the barn and make changes via touchscreen, or I can come into the office that we're in now and use a laptop, and I have all 4 of them right at the laptop that I'm able to do make changes on and do things there. So, if I decide, when the time comes that I need to market and whatnot, I can do everything from the laptop. There's an app that's available for free that you can see how many pigs have been caught. If you have a semi that day or the next day, and maybe you're doing field work and you're out in the tractor for long hours, and in between your morning and afternoon chores, you're curious how many pigs you've caught and stuff. So the pigs seem to be a lot more active in the morning and in the afternoon for, going through the sorter time a little bit more frequent. So that's a good time to kind of capture pigs, but very easy technology to learn and understand. They have a brief packet with kind of the training mode. And then probably one of the last things I'd share is they do offer Team Viewer, with George has that. So George and I have had a few times where he'll come and give him some information from my computer, and he's able to jump in on his end and talk on the phone, and hey, maybe I have a setting issue type thing, and he's able to see kind of what's going on, being in the Mitchell area, and we're about 100 miles apart, now, but he's able to kind of help walk me through that, and find out if there might be an issue, or if I have a question on something that I'm still learning, or that type of thing too, and that's been very helpful.
So, Dan, how was your overall experience with ProSort, from installation to controlling the software to the ease of use, basically from day one on to today?
Yeah, I think overall it's been a really positive experience. I picked up the equipment in Mitchell and brought it back here, and we got everything loaded in the barn, and we did a nice open house and did a walkthrough, kind of one-on-one with George and I at the open house, and from there it's all pretty easy to kind of hit the ground running. Like once you get the hang of things, there's also a team viewer that's in the laptop that allows George and his team to look at things from their location near Mitchell, and then myself here in the barn. So if I'm not sure on a setting or something like that, we can walk through things over the phone, and he can jump onto my computer through TeamViewer. But overall, it's been a very positive experience. Tremendous saving time on the labor aspect is probably the number one benefit, and and then it's neat to kind of watch things go from training mode to auto sort. So it's been good.
Okay. Do you mind showing a software on the computer on how easy it is to navigate?
So what we're looking at is this is one of the scales. So there's 4 in the barn. It's a 2,400 head barn again, and we're looking at one of the sections. So this one, there's a pig that just came in that weighs 287, and so on the right side, the technology calculates all this. So we have the medium pigs is 50%. That would kind of be your bread and butter and kind of your average that we're kind of shooting for. So any pig from 211 to 237 is in the 50% of the range. And then the heavies above that is 237 to 291. 291. And then that's about 35% of the pigs, and then 15% is going to be our lights. So 188 is the smallest pig in this group of 600 to 211, so that's 15% of the pigs. Down here, this hits today. Since midnight, there's been 1,613 pigs that have gone through, and of the 1,613, our total sort average is about 215 pounds. But yeah, that's the technology as the pig goes in. So this pig was in the medium range. That last one that went in was 239 pounds. And he might have defaulted, it looks like. But yeah, so yeah, that's kind of how the scale works. Is kind of that way. So now we're looking at cameras that are in the barn. So on the left is the mediums, and that's the 50% we were talking about, and that's got 3 feeders. This is the heavies that has 2 feeders, and this is the lights. So one pig just went in, and we can look at the camera, and you can see he weighed 239 pounds, and he just went into the heavy pen. So, and now we got another one that came in, and he's at 200 and looks like 49 pounds. So yep, that one weighs about 250. So in this particular section, about 258 pounds is kind of the average. So there's a training mode that they do for about 3 weeks, sometimes 4, depending on your time. We would take this gate out, this gate out, this gate out, and that gate out. Let them know where the food court is. These are wet-dry feeders. And then once I get used to that, then we start putting in like an angle gate, and it does 20 minutes to the left, 20 minutes straight, and 20 minutes right. And it kind of just gets used to going through the one-way, because everything in the one-way gating system is a one-way. And then over here, that's an exit only. So every pen has 2 one-ways to get out. So as you can see, they're very used to going through this. 1 or 2 pigs are kind of on deck ready to get in, and they go in pretty easy, and they know the system, and the food courts are all full. So that's kind of what they're designed for, is to go and eat and drink in there, and then when they're done, they go into the rest of the barn and kind of go hang out. So
Dan, I thank you much for doing that interview with us here today, and for all the information that you shared, and for being a ProSort customer. So thank you much, Dan.
yeah, and I would just add that I did a pen barn for 9.5 years that the last generation on our farm had, and switching to sorter scales has really been a game changer for me from a labor standpoint, and everything works very smoothly, and it's been a much easier way of raising hogs. Everyone knows that sorting hogs doesn't get to be a lot of fun, so if you have an opportunity, I would strongly recommend ProSort, and talk to George and his team to learn more, but definitely recommend going that route.
Thank you much, Dan.
Thanks, George.